Trump doesn't want us to see his medical records, even though he said we could. Trump doesn't want us to know anything about anything to do with him. That's why he constructs such crazy narratives about himself and his career, because it's nicer for him to live in a false reality than to acknowledge the fact that, well, for one, he lost the 2020 presidential election, or that he is losing the 2024 presidential election, or that he's not the smartest man in any room, or that he is not the pinnacle of health, neither mental nor physical, that he would like for us all to believe he is, despite what we can see with our own eyes. And not everyone is a shining paragon of health, but to be fair, not everyone claims to be. Trump does, though. He has a strongman image that he likes to portray, even if that means publicly sharing AI-generated or photoshopped images of himself looking ways he has never looked and engaging in behavior he has never engaged in. Here he is out in the mountains as some kind of rugged state trooper enforcing the law the way they did in the old days. What is he here, a border patrol agent? Does Trump know how to use that gun? The man does love a cowboy hat, though. Here he is with 6 fingers on one hand, praying in a church. Trump shared this one on social media himself. And we all remember this one. Here he is hanging out with black people. We know he doesn't hang out with black people. Who is he trying to fool? So after Trump's first assassination attempt, when he was nicked on the ear, he turned up at his next big public event, the Republican National Convention, with a giant bandage on his ear. For a bandage so big, it would imply a pretty significant wound, and significant wounds typically take a while to heal, especially for a guy who's pushing 80. But the ear seemed to heal very, very quickly, so quickly that it had people wondering how bad the graze really was. On top of that, being shot at would be a traumatic experience for anyone, but Trump likes to pretend he's above anything that people like himself would perceive as weakness. After the shooting, sources close to Trump reported he's been watching that 7-second clip of how close he was to getting shot right in the head over and over and over again. He may actually legit have PTSD. But PTSD, which would be a totally normal mental and physiological response for someone who's been shot at, is for weak people. It's not for Trump. After the shooting, Trump was examined by doctors, and as he's done so many times in the past, he bragged about how well he performed on the physical and cognitive exams. He said he got a perfect score for his physical health, and he said he aced the cognitive test, just like he aced very difficult cognitive tests in the past that turned out just to be dementia screenings. Here's what he said most recently: "I got everything right. One of the doctors said, I've never seen that before, where you get everything right. No, I have no problem. I'd go a step further. I think anybody that runs for president, whether they're 75 or 65 or 45, should take a cognitive test." I don't think very many people would argue with that last part, but if we're testing the cognition of our political candidates, shouldn't those results be made somewhat public? There's currently no requirement of political candidates to disclose medical records, but this is only a story because Trump promised to release his, and he still hasn't. He didn't in 2015 either. Back then, he was 10 years younger, but he just released a statement from his personal doctor where he said Trump would be the healthiest person ever elected to the presidency. Then he got COVID. Reports say his condition was far worse than Trump wanted anyone to know. They said that in the moment where he stood outside the White House and triumphantly pumped his fist in the air after having defeated this thing that had killed thousands of Americans on his watch, he was struggling to stand upright. Then he survived the first of 2 assassination attempts in which a bullet grazed his ear. Apart from the potential psychological effects of this, there could have been less obvious physical effects as well. According to Dr. David Rottinghaus from Butler Memorial Hospital, which is where Trump was treated after the shooting, he said anytime there is a high-velocity injury, particularly from a weapon and a gunshot, there is potential for significant damage. You have to be very meticulous and very diligent in the evaluation of even something that may appear to be minor. The Daily Beast also reports that trauma surgeon Dr. Kenji Ibana offered a more optimistic take on Trump's injury, saying that given Trump is walking, talking, campaigning, and doing things normally, it can be inferred that he didn't suffer from any major effects that could be caused by a gun wound to the ear, like bleeding between the skull and brain or ear bone damage. So the overall story here isn't necessarily that Trump won't release his medical records. Biden and Harris haven't either, and as I said, none of them are required to. The story is that he continues to insist that he is something that he likely is not. And whenever he offers to deliver proof, he just never does. People should either stop taking his word for things or demand that he follows up with his own promises. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.